What's going on, you loyal listeners? Thank you for tuning in to the L Squared Podcast. I'm your host here, Luke Larson. And joining me today is a brand new, very special guest, an old friend of mine, the apple of my eye, if you will. my brother in arms, Skull Nation, fellow Vikings fan, Austin Appel.
What is going on, Luke? It's good to be here. It's good to join you on the podcast.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks for coming on, man.
Yeah, it's always nice to have a fellow Viking fan around to talk to bitch about the team.
Yeah, it's important. Old Leg is a Bears fan, so he, we always give each other shit. But I always appreciate a smart football fan, because one of the things you run into is there's just so many uninformed, just dumb fans that are just the worst. I hate talking to them.
Believe me, as a bartender, I run into them all the time, and it's just you never. When's the last time you touched a football, man? Because holy shit, I can learn you some things.
Yeah, I know, and it's I really just I wish that sometimes with my own pretentious ass is I just wish people had to pass a test in order to be a fan. And, they had to have 100-word written essay on why they're a fan and what formations they like and don't like, and because I just
who my favorite player is that's not named a quarterback.
Right, yeah. And how long have you been on the team? How many players can you name? Fuck, I can still remember receivers fucking Bobby Wade and Billy McMullen, and just awful, terrible fourth-string receivers from years and years ago.
I remember Greg Camarillo and
he was
the guy that they cut Moss for when he came back the second time.
Was Greg Camarillo?
Yeah, pretty much.
He played for the Dolphins. He was kind of he was your diet Danny Amendola before Danny Amendola. And I remember he had one great catch for Miami. It was a third down, and it bounced around off his knees, and he caught it with his ass. And that's the highlight. Yeah, that was him.
That. And then his probably other highlight was technically a defensive one when I don't know who they're playing, but the guy intercepts it and Camarillo runs from the other side of the field and strips the ball at the 5-yard line.
Yeah, I think that was, if I remember right, I think that was against the Cardinals at home, right? And
it was so long ago.
I think that we were wearing all purple pants, and I think it was Kerry Rhodes that intercepted it. And I don't know why I remember all those things.
Well, we know. I feel like we know Christian Ponder through that, right?
Well, yeah. Definitely. God, the Christian Ponder era. We've been through a lot. It was.
Oh yeah.
There was a time where I legitimately was Christian Ponder is our future.
Yep.
He's going to lead us there. And then before him, it was obviously Favre and Joe Webb and Sage Rosenfels and Jafaris Jackson and
Gus Frerotte.
Oh, yeah. I like Gus Frerotte. He was an old timer. Yeah, Brad Johnson was okay for a while.
Mm-hmm.
And then, do we have Kelly Holcomb? Did he play for us, or is that the?
I'm not sure. He might have started one game.
One game, yeah. Sean Hill kind of was there a few times. I feel like. Man,
yeah.
That could just be this whole show. You just go through remembering.
Just go through old Vikings players that never did anything.
Never did anything. Shout outs. They, it's good for them. We'll tag them in the episode, and they'll be like, "Oh, somebody remembers me. Look at that."
Yeah. Well, I know this this newer Minnesota sports media company I follow, Score North. They'll do a random Minnesota athlete of the day, and it is. Oh my goodness! I think the most recognizable one was Wally Szczerbiak of the Timberwolves.
Jeez.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, but it's kind of cool to see what Some are like in jail, and they're like, "Oh, this guy ends up sells insurance."
Right. Yeah.
It's like, you're in the NFL.
Yeah, I know. But I mean, like, yeah, at the very least, like, I don't know, coach somewhere. Can't you just get a coaching job somewhere? Like at some
Todd
like
Bauman did.
Yeah, right. Get like go to like even just like JUCO or something.
Yep.
As long as you have a name, you can. I'm assuming you can go pretty much anywhere. But I mean, I guess like also though, maybe you'd make more money selling insurance. But at least like if you or I made it to the NFL, right? And the average career is like 3 years. Even if we just like were a practice team, you know, playing some preseason games. I mean, and then I went on to sell insurance. I would never stop telling people that I played for the Vikings, and I would like have my jersey all up on the wall.
I'd be like, "Can I keep my helmet and
right?
My pads?"
Oh, I would take all that stuff, dude. Man, that'd be cool. And like they say, like you know, the best position in sports is the backup quarterback. And
I don't know, man. Those guys watch a lot of film.
Yeah, I guess like if you're a film junkie.
Maybe I'm biased now because I'm a huge Pat McAfee fan, but I'd say it has to be like punter. Like you don't have to do a whole lot of running. Yeah. You just kind of stand there.
Right. Pat McAfee is he is a godsend. You know, we don't deserve him. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, like
discovered him like 5 years ago.
Right. Same. You know, I don't know. Punter is fine, but it's also like a bitch position. You know, like. I guess like he made it cool, but like if you're a punter, people aren't gonna like take you seriously.
You're not. Oh yeah,
respect it at all.
You're gonna do your own thing, and then Well, I mean, like I don't know, like in his high school career, he just showed up on Friday nights, like usually late, but he could kick a 45-yard field goal, and nobody cared.
Yeah. I guess that kind of goes with
one of those things.
Yeah, it's sort of like with I guess most special teams guys like kickers. It's like if you can come in and just do your job and not get recognized, then you're doing better than most. Because once you just like can't punt it, or you like even like I remember there was this one punter for the Browns that was like kind of a thicker dude. I think he was. I don't know. I don't remember his name. I just remember one time the Browns ran a fake punt, and I feel like it was in London. It was like years ago, and I remember him. It was like a 60-yard run, and I was like, man, that guy looks. Yeah. You remember that play?
That was insane.
Yeah, and I was like, that dude is fast. Like, wow, I bet that punter is gonna be the next big thing, and they're just gonna and then you never I doubt he was even on the team by the end of the year. You know?
Yeah, they never do anything again. No. And it's just like, oh, all right.
But like, I don't know. Did you like watching film? Because like I was a big film guy, and I love putting on the tape. So like as a backup quarterback, I think I'm too big. You know, I have to play. I have to be with my big guys. I'm a lineman at heart.
I played middle linebacker and special teams, so I did watch a lot of film. And most times, you know, like I was pretty much a loner in high school, so I would literally come home from the game if I didn't have anything else going on and pop on next week's opponent for 2 hours, just like unwind and get myself ready.
Yeah. I wish we had more access to it, honestly. I mean, this is, you know...
Well, my senior year, finally, Huddle came out, and Huddle, I guess we're the same age.
Right. Yeah. I do remember that, because it was like, we were just... That
was nice. I didn't have to wait, and I have to, go into the office and...
Get those stupid DVDs. Yeah. Oh, I hated that. Yeah. And, with our school, shout out Chester Area High School, you guys fucking suck. But they're just kidding. But it's just, it was such a, I don't know what they're like now, but, it's just such a small school that it's you feel like you're late to everything. So it was we had Huddle, but no one really knew how to use it at that time. And so we would just have the shitty DVDs, but they wouldn't have they'd have 2 copies. So the coaches would watch them, and then they'd give them to the quarterback, and then that'd be it. So if I wanted, so then what we did was we started to have morning film sessions where you could come in at 6 or whatever and just try and watch film and stuff. And we would try and do that, but it was I always would, but I was I wish I had my own set of film on everybody, you know.
It was nice. because I don't know how we got into it, but yeah, it was just all of a sudden, like, my junior, senior year, it's readily available for us, like, and it was so nice because each play would be numbered on, on the screen. Luckily, didn't have to go through the whole hunting down the DVD or, like, trying to get guys together, because I want to go through all my checks and stuff by myself, so I know it for myself instead of having people talk over me.
Yeah, and and then when you're in a group and you're tired, people are like joking around, and then they're just like, "Oh, look at that guy! Oh my god!" And it's like,
"Oh, that guy got lit up." All right, but cool. Watch what the fucking guard does.
Yeah, right. How's his stance here? Like, I would always look at, because our I guess I'm just gonna shit on him for a little bit here, but like when we our coaching staff came from the kind of generation before us, the team that was like a couple classes ahead of us were all athletes, and they were all like big time all across the board, all sports. They were just these athletes. So we ran the spread, and they would spread them out, and we had a lot of success with that. But then here comes my generation, and we were just stacked with big dudes, like mostly big dudes.
Oh yeah.
So it was like, they didn't utilize it. They kept trying to run pro, and it was like, no, we can we can
line up in a power eye, dude, and just run over
I
these
know.
kids.
Like, it was literally like straight up like how many high school teams had, because we had 1, 2, 3, we had maybe 5 dudes who were 250 in high school.
Jeez, we barely had 5 that were over 200.
Right, I know. And it was like, and like we weren't all, we weren't like fucking fat, we're all big, so it's like
athletes.
Yeah, right. It's like, dude, we got to run. So like whenever we would randomly run power, it was like we would just crush dudes. Yeah. But they wouldn't do it. They would just keep trying to spread us out, and it's like we just don't have the manpower for that. So obviously this sounds like two guys who have been out of high school for a couple of years talking about how much, but one thing I will say about, you and I have an affinity for the game, and one thing I will say is that, like, in movies, in movies, it's hard for me sometimes. Segue. In case listen carefully now, you might hear a segue there. But it's hard for me to sometimes to watch movies with football in it, because I'm like, it's just not realistic enough most of the time, And I don't know, just there's times that it just takes me out of it. Like, for instance, like 22 Jump Street, right? Have you seen that?
Yeah.
Yeah, so super funny, right? But I remember seeing it, and like every time there was like a scene with him at practice or like going to a game, it just took me out of it. Because, like, dude, you're playing college football. Like, he never went to, like, any practices, and when he did, it was just him and his friend. And you're like, that's not how you're just fucking around. Yeah, it's like, that's not how practice works.
It's like a full-time job in college.
Yeah. And you can't just do that. And then, the one scene climactic towards the end, it's like, oh, he's not at the game. He's got this big game, and the quarterback's like calling him on his cell phone on the sideline. And you're like, what?
Yeah,
what the fuck is this? No, and then
my cell phone was in my locker.
Right? Why would you ever even have that close to you? And then like he can just show up and just. I was like, so like
and not be in trouble. And
yeah,
play.
I'm like, no, that like it just I can't. Stuff like that, and it's like I don't want it, because it's like whatever. It's just a dumb comedy. Like, who cares?
I know.
I do. I'm the one. Make it realistic.
I'm the 1%.
Yeah, like at least like
this movie that gave a shit.
Like sometimes like that happens. Like you'll see like an athletic kid, you're like, oh, get him out there. But yeah, and then if you don't do anything, well, you're in college, so you can't just fuck around and just show up. Like that's not how it works. And it just, but I don't know. So like there's times like that, and then like. A lot of like when they try.
I look in. All right. So one movie that really bothered me, and I'm probably gonna get a little heat for this, but it was The Blind Side, and I was like, this movie is.
Dude, I hate The Blind Side. Not joking. I do not like that movie. So, I'm right there with you.
You can't just blow a guy 90 yards off the ball. The play's over by then.
Yeah, I know. And like, there's so many things that are wrong with that movie, but like I hated when he like in that scene in practice, right? When he's like getting beat,
she comes out.
and she's like, "That's your family. You got to protect your family." And then all of a sudden he just like throws him in a dumpster, and you're like, "What? That's not."
Like, no, he didn't learn how. He didn't learn his drop step and his hand placement just from a conversation from Sandra Bullock. She's 5'2", and what the hell she ever doing on the practice field?
Right, exactly. Get her out of there.
Get the hell out of here.
Yeah, what are you doing?
I don't care if you're Madam President. Get off my practice field.
Right. I just, no, I agree. I did not like that movie, and I like that Michael Orr was like, yeah, that wasn't really, like, true.
At all.
At all.
Yeah.
Like, I wasn't, like, this homeless guy, and it's also, like, weird that they were, like, I don't know, it feels like
they overplayed it and like made it like seem so much worse than it was, and like see him learn football so much faster than he probably actually did.
Right, and they made him look fucking dumb. Which is like, I don't think I'm that stupid, but
I remember I was watching a Vikings game. I think it was this year or the year before, and they had Thor Bjornsson there to blow the Geller horn.
Yeah.
And my buddy Steven, he's like, oh, put him on the line. He's like 400 pounds. I'm like, no, you can't just go from bodybuilding to learn to play professional football.
It's a whole different thing.
Well, he'll just get in the way. I'm like, yeah, he will, but he's not going to do anything. Like, that DN can run a 4.5.
Right. Yeah, no, that's not how it works. And, like, he doesn't have – you don't have the kind of flexibility you need when you're powerlifting to do that. And it's like – I know, it's just like, those are the kind of fans where you're like, you just like wait for them to be done talking so you can just like change the subject.
I'm gonna just shake my head and go get another beer.
Just shut
try
the
to stomach
fuck
the rest of this game.
I know, but like if you look at look at like Jason Peters, for instance. Like he is one of the best left tackles ever, I think. Maybe the best that I've ever seen, but he's hurt all the time is the problem. But like if you look at him, he is just an athlete out there. Like he's big, he's tall, but he's like a dancing bear, and it's like for people that haven't played offensive linemen, don't get like how
they don't realize how much footwork is involved.
Oh, yeah.
Because we had a bunch of big toads and big hogs on my team in high school, but they couldn't move their feet, so they just get blown up by these running backs who played DN.
Yeah, it's exactly right. Like we had one guy.
Come on, guys! Like, and that's why like my senior year, I played fullback. Not really, because I played defense. I played full-time defense and special teams, so I didn't play offense and didn't need to. But my senior year, I was going to be moved to line because I was more athletic and stronger than most kids eventually.
Mm-hmm.
But I ended up not playing. But anyways, during that summer, I went to the USF football camp in Sioux Falls, and I went for offensive line. It was so funny. Like, all these kids are way bigger than me, like 6'1", 6'2", just 250 pounders, and like I'm doing drills against them. And the coaches are like, "How is this little 5'8", 5'9", 180-pound kid not getting his ass beat?" It was just because I had a lower center of gravity and I could move my feet.
Yep, I hated it.
Yeah.
I hated going against guys like you. Like I loved the big fat dudes because I knew that they couldn't move. They couldn't move their feet, and they're just like a big fucking like beanbag chair. You're just gonna flop them over. Yep.
All right, I'm gonna push you kind of out of my way.
Yep. There
get
you
my
go.
arm extended, and I'm gonna tackle the quarterback.
Yep, and that's it. I love that. And I was kind of a Swiss Army knife. They put me. I played every position on the offensive line, and then I also played D tackle and D end and some tight end, which I liked. And everybody always said, they were like, "Wow, you're really athletic for a big guy." Which, if I wouldn't, this is also sounds like, a guy who's been out of high school for a couple years. But I tore my ACL my sophomore year, and then I played my junior year, but then the summer before my senior year, I ended up hurting my knee like 3 times again. And so then it kind of scared me. I was like, you know what? I'm just not going to play, which was tough.
Yeah.
Because then the guy who they got to replace me was awful. and was just like
Well,
literally.
that's always so hard to watch. That happened to me. I played for the Buffalo Ridge Wildcats, which is an amateur 9-man league out of southern Minnesota. But the last full season I played, I had to watch this kid, like, I don't know, just because of who he was. I don't know. The kid was a better athlete than I was, but he wasn't a better linebacker was my problem.
Sure.
And I don't know. I couldn't get in the game. I was like, are you kidding me? This kid sucks. He can't read line. He can't. He's fast, and he's a bigger kid than I was. And I'm just like, he's a trash middle linebacker, though. He can play D end if he wants. And it was so hard to try to beat that into my coach's head. I'm like, no, this guy's out of position. He doesn't know what he's doing. He's like, no, he's fast.
I know. There's people that
like broke my heart. I'm like, this kid.
Yeah, and it's like, that's my position out there, and he's messing it up.
Yep.
Yeah, I know. And it was hard because it was like literally like I remember we were playing a team that hadn't lost a game in like 3 years, and we were up 14-0 in their house, and they were kind of like, they were like a snowball team, you know? So it was like, once they would just get up on you, and then everybody would just fold, and they would just keep going and going. So they'd like run up the score and stuff. But it was a team where it was like, well, no one had really like hit him, punched him in the mouth, and we had successfully done that, you know. And this was my senior year, so I'm on the sideline and it's going great. Well, then all of a sudden, the guy who replaced me at guard is in there, and we're going to punt, and he literally just lays down and lets 3 dudes come through, and they block the punt, and they get it for a touchdown, and then it was just like, all of a sudden we just lost like 48-14. It was just like, instantly.
All the air left your lungs.
Yep, and it was like, that was it, and I was like, God damn it. Like, I'll never forget that. I'm still mad about it. But it was like, so playing in the games, you know, like we said, seeing that on the screen, it's tough. It kind of takes me out of it. But I don't know. Because there's like a couple football movies that I like, that I enjoy, that I'll put on. But I don't know. What are some that you kind of gravitate towards?
Probably my favorite one. It's a very popular one. Was Friday Night Lights, because it kind of captures that whole agony of defeat. You know, you're supposed to be so good, you lose your star player, and losing a championship game is like, it made me cry the first time I saw it. It still almost makes me cry, but that's because I'm a little baby. But I don't know. I thought that character is such a real part of football that does. Not everybody wins, man. Like that's sports. That's life. Not everybody wins. So that's definitely up there with my favorites. I don't know. Another great one was The Replacements.
I had that on mine too. Shane Falco, the lefty. Man, you know, that's a fun movie, and I know it was like, I think it was loosely based on the NFL strike from '87. When scab players came in and played for like 4 games or whatever. So it was like kind of loosely based on that, but that's just a fun movie. You know?
It's a great like little redemption, like finally getting their shot who are actually good, who just you know, stuff doesn't work out.
And like I can watch that one because it's like, it's just being silly, but like the actual action football scenes in that are not realistic at all. Which, like, you know, whatever. But like, at least I could separate myself from that. Whereas like Friday Night Lights, I think is probably like the best interpretation of like realistic football that I've ever seen. It's really great, and you really feel it. And those, especially coming from like, our school hasn't ever won a state championship, so we were always losers.
Same here.
You know, so it was like
state runner-up like twice in the late 70s and 80s, and like even the last couple years, I think a couple years after 2015 and 2016, were state runner-ups again to like the exact same team who kicked our ass. Like, it was just like, jeez, and they like dropped They dropped it like 49-0. It was like the Vikings in the 70s, like getting to the Super Bowl. It was just,
oh, that's rough. Yeah.
Yeah. I was just like, I'm sitting there watching on TV or whatever. I'm just like, what is going on?
Yeah, that's rough. Because, like, well, at least, like, I mean, there's no. I think that one of the other things, talking about stupid fans, one of the other things that I am getting sick of, and I think I used to be this way, but I'm getting sick of moral victories, and I think it comes from a lot in Midwest sports fans. There are no moral victories. I don't.
No, you either win or you lose.
Right,
like, come
and
on.
that's it. I
and
hate
this whole theoretical tanking for the draft pick.
No, that's not a thing.
Win.
That is a myth.
Why?
It's not.
No, I'd rather have my team win the last game of the season than fucking.
No, are you fucking kidding? No, I hate that. That's when you know, like, that person doesn't know anything.
Draft pick. Oh, really? No. How many number one draft picks have worked out?
And who would ever do that? They're like, well, why not? I'm like, okay, first of all those people have jobs. So, like, if they're none of them are going to be on the team next year, you know? So why? None of the coaches, none of the players. So why would they get what? And you're like, you're not taking into account all these guys have massive egos. Otherwise, they wouldn't be there. So it's like, why would they give a no? That doesn't make any sense on any level. Okay, anyway. But yeah, moral victories. Like, you can't, Midwest sports fans, I think, are terrible at this, but like, well, at least they tried hard. At least they played hard. No, it's win or lose. Like, it's binary. We didn't do enough, you know, or it's not.
Yeah.
But at least, like, but there is an honorable way to lose. You know, I mean, like, I want to see my team put up a good fight. I don't want to see, I would rather see us get beat than us beat ourselves. You know?
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's, like, I think around the Midwest, it comes up from people idolizing sports. I think that whole moral victory comes from people who never played sports, but, like, always watched them and were intent fans. Those people, I could punch them in the face sometimes. Because guys like Mike Greenberg from the old Mike and Mike show bothered the hell out of me because he could not get what was going on the field. And Mike Golick would be like, no, this is how it is. Like, the coach yells at the players, and then the player does better. Yeah. That's what happens. And it's just like, there's no moral victories. You win or lose. You try your hardest. There's a little honor in that.
Yep.
But you're still going to go home sad.
Right.
Like, it was...
you still didn't get it.
Yeah. Like, Deshaun Watson in his first championship game, he was hanging his head out of the tunnel, and everyone's commenting like, no reason to hang your head. No, he just lost
there is a reason,
championship, dude.
We can prove it to you.
To hang his head.
They didn't make enough. They didn't score enough points. Like, what do you mean? Like, obviously. And I hate, like, it's, you know, and I don't like I hated how much. Okay, I don't know how many hot button issues we want to get. I guess this was a hot button issue in 2015, so maybe we've moved past it now. But like,
keep rewinding that clock.
Yeah. We're living in the past here, clearly. But Cam Newton, right, got a lot of flack in 2015, and I think undeservingly so, and especially like that Super Bowl press conference when he was dejected. And he was like, we didn't play well, you know. And people just hammered him, and I'm like, why? Like, you think he's not upset? Like,
have you ever been in an emotional situation like that?
Have you ever really?
Now you have to go talk to people who don't know what's going on and don't know what happened on the field. Really?
Yeah. And people had the audacity to like call him phony. I'm like, no, he's being real. Those are his real emotions. He's not acting like he's sad. He is. Yeah. He is actually bummed out.
Like, he just balled out for an entire year, got an MVP award out of it, and then he lost the Super Bowl. How many? Like.
Yeah. And it's just I don't understand why people are like, well, you got to stand up there and you got to congratulate the other team and you got to this and you got to that.
No, I don't.
No, I don't. Like he.
It was a half hour ago.
Right. He got up there and he talked to you guys, but he was sad and he got up and left early because Chris Harris and whoever else were celebrating at their press conference. You can hear he's like, well, I don't want to be around for that. I don't want to hear them celebrating. Let them celebrate. I don't want to hear it. I just got my ass kicked, you know? Like, I wish that it's like, no one knows what they want. Everyone's just attacking everybody.
Exactly. Yeah. I don't know. Again, it's just those mediocre sports fans that are just
Well, it's like,
and they're getting into the further and further into the media now.
They are, yeah.
You shouldn't even be there.
I know. Like, what are your thoughts on that? Because we're gonna get all right. As long as we're on hot button issues, I'm gonna bring up a hot button issue just to see your thoughts on it, because this is something I've struggled with. So, like, what do you think of? This is gonna be hard to say, but like, what do you think about people who coach football, let's say at a professional level, that haven't necessarily played it? Because I guess what I'm getting at...
I know where you're going with this, and it's towards female coaches.
That's right.
And I'm where I'm at is, it's really hard to gain a player's perspective.
It is.
And teach a player something. Teach somebody you've never done.
So that's where I started from, at least, you know. And
until it can work, I don't know. I guess it's not my call to obviously hire these females, but if they can, obviously if they can get the job done.
Yeah, that's what it's all about. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because that's kind of where my mind goes too. It's like, well, you need to be able to have done it to be able to tell somebody else how to do it, I think. But then, I think, like, so I actually just read the Bill Belichick biography by Ian O'Connor. It's actually a great book. It's fascinating. And I just read it because Bill Belichick is just such a private person, and obviously he's, undeniably the best coach in NFL history. It's just
absolutely,
it's just a truth. Yeah. And so I just wanted to, like, and I was kind of a Parcells guy. I always liked Bill Parcells, and he kind of comes from that tree. And, like, I just wanted to know more about Bill Belichick and kind of, like, his past, because I knew him as a Patriots coach, but I, like, had heard stories about when he was a Cleveland head coach, and, you don't really know. So it was like, well, it'd be interesting to, like, read this biography, and it's really, really good. I should actually, I'll let you read it. I'll send it over to you. But
for sure.
But it was interesting because he played football at it wasn't, maybe it was. I'm just asking myself a question. What's the West Point. I don't think it was West Point, but it was one of those kind of colleges, like an Army prestigious school. I don't know. I don't remember if it was West Point or not, but it was something like that. And the thing was that he wasn't ever a good athlete, ever. Like, he's just always been built like that. Not very big, not fast. He's slow, but he was a long snapper and a center. And he just would practice constantly just to have, like, this perfect snap. And he would work on that, and he was always a film junkie. Like, his dad was a huge film junkie, and that's kind of where he learned it from. But just, like, worked on. Anyway, like, he wasn't a good football player. He was very smart, and he was kind of a player coach, like a coach on the field. And knew everything, knew all the formations, but he just wasn't athletically gifted enough to be a good player, And so, like, and that was.
I think that's where, like, that's why him and Tom Brady get along so well. Because I'm a better athlete than Tom Brady. Figuratively speaking.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, have you seen the guy run?
Yeah. I mean that
and I think that's why they get along so well. I mean, Tom Brady wasn't blowing anybody out of the water with his arm strength, but it's like, obviously, as any athlete knows, it's 90% mental. And now hearing that's what makes more sense as to why they're so successful. Yep. And then it's the other side of it, like the team side of it that not everybody thinks about, is getting 53 grown men to put aside their stupid fucking egos and win the Super Bowl after
Yeah,
Super Bowl.
how do you
Super Bowl.
manage that? I mean, because
I don't
really,
know. He's got to have him taking drugs. He's got to have him doing something. Cause
Yeah.
there's no way. They got to be ups and downers
that's
all
why
the time.
that's why I had to read that book, man. I had to like get into it, and I think a lot of the success, at least initially, was the takeaway I had from this book. And you got to read it; it's great. But that he wouldn't have. Because he was the kind of story on him when he got that head coaching job in Cleveland after he won the Super Bowls with the Giants as the D coordinator. When he coordinated, I still say to this day, the best game plan for any Super Bowl was his defense against the Bills in the 1990 Super Bowl. The defense they had prepared two down linemen and just 6 corners and just played press and just beat the shit out of those receivers. And like he literally said in the game plan, I want Thurman Thomas to rush for 100 yards, and we will win this game. And like that, both those things happened. I mean, it happened on a missed field goal, but they kept it close. Anyway, that's all besides the point. And I've always thought that. But so then he goes on to Cleveland, and all you hear is that like he was a tyrant, and he was just kind of a control freak. And they won a playoff game. They were kind of like a scrappy team and whatever. And then they left. But, like, his coaching staff was stacked, though, in Cleveland, though. They all went on to be super successful. But anyway, then he went back to Bill Parcells and was his D coordinator in New England and then in New York. And, it was just kind of like he couldn't quite get out of the shadow of Bill Parcells. And then when he was on his own, he was just kind of like, everybody just kind of agreed that he was a football genius, but not a good coach. Like, that was kind of the thing, was he was sort of like, well, this guy gets it, and he's a great coordinator, and he understands this stuff, but he just can't motivate people, right? Well, then in comes Tom Brady, and I think that Tom Brady really helped his success because Tom Brady's a guy, like you said, has maybe the most mental toughness ever of any player.
Yeah, the guy's an absolute psycho when it comes to that kind of stuff. And I'm using psycho like in a good word.
Yeah. I also go ahead.
It's just when you show up to, like, this is just going back to this year, and when you're a 40-year-old quarterback and you show up to the team workout saying you're the baddest motherfucker on the planet, everybody's going to jump on your back, dude.
Yeah.
They're like, yeah, you are.
Yep,
We're going to fucking win a Lombardi trophy again.
Yep, and they did.
Yeah, it's like, why wouldn't you want to follow that guy?
100%.
So I think that's where Tom takes over, is he kind of handles the team and the team morale and stuff like that. Yep. And then you got your grinders, Julian and those guys in there and just grinding away. And then they put the athletes in the right spot.
Yep. Because if you look at the Belichick model, it's always been win close. Like, he has all the numbers. He has all the film. He knows what you're going to do. It's going to be close because he's going to get down to the nitty-gritty. Like, it's going to be close. You just have to take that little extra to get over the hump. And that little extra is that Tom Brady is the best quarterback of all time, but he puts his ego aside he would much rather throw the check down rather than try and fit it in double coverage, Throw the check down. He would run the ball, 40 times in a game if it meant winning, because he cared more about winning than his own ego, which almost 90% of NFL players say they do, but don't really, obviously. But anyway, wow, we got way off track there. Wow. So but you know what?
That's all right. Well, if we're teaching people stuff.
Yeah, that's all
here for it, man.
Yeah, we're, welcome to our TED Talk. But anyway, yeah, everybody go buy that book. It's a great book. But anyway,
no free ads.
No, yeah, that's right, Ian. You owe me something for that. I paid Bill. I paid like $30 for that book. So like, you can give me back a little bit. At least cover my costs on that.
30 grand.
Yeah. Perfect. I'll plug your book every show. I don't care. Everything doesn't matter. But anyway, I guess so I can't think of a segue, but going back to stories. Oh, another football movie I was going to say that I actually like is kind of a guilty pleasure is Any Given Sunday.
Oh my God. I love that movie. Okay, and I don't know why I haven't bought it.
Dude, I this was one that's like this one and 310 to Yuma are in a category for me that not guilty pleasures, but just ones that I've bought the DVD, lost it, bought it again, lost it, bought it again, like three or four times. Because I just, for whatever reason, man, I really like this movie, and there's times where it's cheesy and corny, whatever, but like I absolutely love it. But you cannot deny that the on-field football those shots are great. Like that's
those are fantastic.
They are.
That's why I love, like when I first saw that movie, I was like, wow, they're actually like playing football.
Yeah, like that's definitely real. And like Oliver Stone made all the actors go to a training camp. Like they set up a whole training camp and made all of them go run drills and do all the shit so that they would be in shape and the movements would look real. And it fucking paid off, man. And it has the best, my favorite speech of all time, my favorite motivational speech at the end there. You cannot beat Al Pacino's.
You die for that inch. Yeah.
Oh, you claw with your fingernails to that inch. Oh man, I love it. And it is like super Oliver Stoney. Like you can totally tell Oliver Stone directed it. Like the weird quick cuts and the editing. And, like, you know, the Cameron Diaz subplot I could do without. Like, whatever, I don't give a shit.
Oh, yeah, that was...
Like, what?
It gives it kind of a bullshit, like, we'll just throw this in there.
Yeah, it pads...
She was hot at the time, I guess.
That's right,
so.
Yeah, she was hot. It pads the runtime, whatever. But, like, the Dennis Quaid as the aging quarterback, you know, coming back, and then Willie Beeman, Jamie Foxx, just this young up-and-comer. It's a super fun movie. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
But that being said, so, like, I kind of wanted this episode to end with us kind of pitching stories from football that we'd like to see in a movie, which is, like, it's fun and interesting, but it's also, like, when I was thinking about it, it's pretty hard because there's some that, like, that make sense, but then there's some that it's like, well, there's no way you could do that, you know? But are there any that come to mind, or do you want me to start us off?
I actually kind of just thought of this right before you called me. With, I think, was it this week or last week? Josh McCown's retirement, and I think a story that relates to that would be super cool because it's a huge part of the NFL that's a very vital position to the NFL, and the success of a lot of quarterbacks is a good backup.
Right.
I mentioned that earlier in the episode where how much film they watch, and that kind of what's made Josh McCown a successful backup. He can learn an offense like, you know, really quick and stuff like that. So I think the bouncing between the Bears, the 18 teams he's been on,
right,
and having to pick up your family and move them and all that stuff. Well, it's still a fairly successful career considering most of them.
Oh, yeah. I would consider it extremely successful.
Yeah, because everybody who's a mild NFL fan pretty much knows who Josh McCown is, probably because he had to start for his team at one point.
Right.
So.
There was a point where your team, you know, your starter went down and you ended up being, it was like, you know, week 14 and your team was 4-7. And all of a sudden you have Josh McCown starting, you know, and he probably threw for 212, you know, maybe 2 touchdowns, 2 picks, you know, but and maybe he squeaked out a victory. But yeah, that would be interesting. It'd be tough because honestly, he's played for so many teams. It would be
a couple of them like twice.
Yeah, right. And because he didn't he. He was the one that threw that touchdown against the Vikings in 2004, was it?
Yep.
To Rodney Poole or whatever?
Anthony Poole,
that's right.
Yep.
The last second.
The end zone. The Vikings would have went to the playoffs. And it was
and then Green Bay gave him the key to the city, and it was stupid.
Yeah, it was just like, All right.
Yeah,
I
you.
just want to jump off a cliff.
Yeah.
We lost to the worst team in the NFL on the last game of the season.
That's what it's all about, being a Vikings fan.
Yep.
He has been around a lot, and he's had an interesting career because it was like, some starter, mostly backup, but then he had those years like in Chicago with Mark Trestman when they were like, oh, Mark Trestman's a quarterback whisperer, when he was backing up Jay Cutler, and then all of a sudden he comes in for Jay Cutler and looks really good, and they think, wow, he looks good compared to Jay Cutler. No shit. And then he somehow gets a starting job in Tampa, and people are like, no, yeah, Josh McCown's a starting quarterback, and then just
all right, here we go, Josh McCown there in Tampa.
Didn't, but that would be like that's an interesting. That's a very unique career arc, and it would definitely show a side that you're not used to. It'd be probably a lot of good family human drama going on behind the scenes too. But there's that great picture that I think it was his daughter, went to school, and all her friends wore all the different jerseys from all the teams he's played for. That was cool.
Yeah.
That was pretty cool.
Yeah, I remember like that conversation with his daughter. She was like, "Hey, Dad, can me and my friends wear your jerseys for like homecoming week, school day?" He's like, "Yeah, if you have enough friends."
Yeah, he's played for a lot, man. That would be
like a little dig at himself and a dig at his daughter at the same time. It's pretty funny.
Yeah, because he's like, I mean, that's sort of like we said before, like a Gus Frerotte, kind of those suitcase type guys who wander around.
Yep.
Sean Hill, like we mentioned, like I respect like Ryan Fitzpatrick, like
first one in, last one out.
Yeah. You know what? I would take a Fitzmagic movie too, because like that dude has had a weird career. I mean,
oh yeah, he was like who's supposed to be the guy at Buffalo for like 7 years.
He was. He got his shot.
And then he started like coming up, and it's like Ryan Fitzpatrick, and then he went to Fitzmagic. Didn't he just go straight to the Jets after that? Or?
Yeah, I think he did. Well, no, because he went to Houston for like a year and a half or something, and then he went to the Jets. I think because it was always like because Fitzmagic is like. He just has those times where it's like he'll have this huge game and you'll be like, holy shit, who is this guy? And then he'll just tank. You'll be like, you kind of forget about him.
That Monday night game against Pittsburgh early in the season, I think it was like week 2 or 3. And just him and Ben Roethlisberger are just lighting it up in the middle of this rainstorm in Tampa Bay. And I'm just like, what's going on right now?
I know.
Like, this is supposed to be a 30 carry game for each team, like 14 to 10.
Yeah. No, we're slinging it around. I would love a Fitzmagic movie. Those kind of suitcase, whatever they call them, quarterbacks are that is definitely interesting. So there's a couple I thought of. One, I think as just like from a movie standpoint, so just like from a classic 3-act structure, I think RG3 would be a very interesting movie. Because really, like if you think of just like the runtime of a movie, really it's just like, his, it would be like him coming on a Baylor where he's this electric, unique player, little dude, can run around, has a huge arm, and they're like obviously another guy where they're like, oh, this is the future of the NFL.
Yeah, this is the next Michael Vick.
Yep, you just hear that same shit every year. And then he comes out and they have this weird offense, this wishbone pistol, read option offense, and they're gimmicky and they're beating teams, and then everybody's like, oh, he's the future. Well, then he hurts his knee, and then the backup Kirk Cousins comes in and starts playing really well.
Yep.
And then he comes back too early for the playoff game. He can barely walk, and then he fucks his knee up again. And then that's basically his career. But I just think like that just in itself is just such a beautiful, contained story with a lot of highs and lows. And I remember like reading an ESPN magazine article about him. He had the front page cover before he got drafted. And I remember because that year it was, who do you take, RG3 or Andrew Luck? Like Andrew Luck is probably the best prospect since John Elway. but like RG3 could have a higher ceiling and you could do like more interesting stuff with him, like which one would you rather take, blah blah blah.
Yeah.
But I remember reading that article, and it was like his dad was talking about like his dad was talking about like one time he got hurt. I think it was in high school. He hurt his knee.
Okay.
And like he was talking about like how his dad would like take him out for runs every day at 5 a.m. since he was a little kid. Because RG3 said like, well, I want to play in the NFL. So he's like, he would be up every day, you know, going over routes with him, throwing the ball, you know, running with him, getting up early after school too, you know, going around, blah blah blah. And, you know, and it's just kind of like his dad was a military guy, and it's like, well, this is what we're working for. And then he hurts his knee in high school, and then his dad talked about him being really dejected and depressed, and just like not really getting back in the swing of it, and then having to kind of because then he was like, well, what was it worth it? You know, all this time and effort I put into this, was it actually worth it if it can just go away like that? You know.
Yeah.
But then he comes back and has that great career at Baylor, and then the one great season in the NFL, and then that's it.
And now he's
a third
backing up.
stringer. He's backing up
Lamar Jackson right now.
Yeah,
which is supposed to be his second coming.
Yeah,
like in the 18th coming of Michael Vick.
Right, exactly. And like, and then like later, you know, later in the movie, you know, like he kind of goes downhill in Washington, and then when he goes to the Browns in 2016, you think, oh, this is his comeback. He's finally gonna, you know, this is him again. And what's his face? Hugh Jackson saying that the earth shook during the workout, and you think, all right, this is it. He's gonna do it, and then gets hurt week one, and it's just nothing.
Yeah,
like, you know, and then he's pairing with Josh Gordon, who he played with in college and stuff. Like, I don't know, just to me, like that's just such an interesting story, and it's self-contained, and it's like there's a lot of highs and lows, and like, I don't know.
that would make for a pretty good emotional roller coaster.
Yeah, and I already know who I would cast as RG3. Are you ready?
Yep. Andre
3000. I mean, that's pretty great, right?
Yep.
I mean, that's pretty great. Andre 3000, they look so much alike, and Andre 3000 is a really good actor. So let's make that happen, Hollywood. Just give me a little bit of a credit for that.
We'll get Spielberg on that one.
Yeah, Spielberg. Yeah, maybe not. I mean, it's not a happy enough ending, I don't think, for Spielberg. We'd have to get somebody else.
Oh, true. Yeah, we'd probably have to. Yeah, Jordan Peele would be too dark.
Yeah, it might be a little too dark. Yeah, you know.
We're gonna die, and
I would love. It would be. But I also would want, like, I feel like I would want, like, I don't know. You'd almost need like some bro-y dude like David Ayer, like somebody who kind of knows football a little bit. You wouldn't want like a super artsy guy because they wouldn't, you know, really.
They'd be like, no, that doesn't look good. I'm like, no, that's what the uniform looks like.
You can't change it.
Yep.
All right. Do you have any other ones?
I think following Pat McAfee's career would be a great one.
Shout outs. He could play himself. Yeah. Honestly, he has the charisma. He could play himself.
100%. 100% he could play himself. And he has his own cameras and stuff, and I don't know why he just hasn't done it.
He can just shoot it himself. And he has access. Like, there's no way the Colts wouldn't let him use their facility and use their players.
Oh, yeah. Irsay would be like, brother.
Yeah.
Here goes. Here's like $8 million.
Dude, make it happen.
Yeah, Irsay, Pat, let's get on that.
Yeah, you know, that would be cool, because it's like, that's something that you don't see, and like, watching it, you know, it might look like a puff piece for Pat McAfee, and you know what, he has every right to make it a puff piece, but it would be cool.
But he was also a huge soccer guy, so I think to capture his high school career, and like maybe his early college career would be kind of cool, kind of a shout out to soccer guys who end up playing football for that reason. So.
Yeah, you know, that's interesting. I would watch that.
So I think you would even maybe get in a whole other demographic out of it. So
that's true. That's good thinking. Another one I thought, and I think this one, I like this idea a lot, because I'm vain, whatever. But I think a movie centered around Super Bowl III would be really good. And that's Joe Namath. That's the guarantee, which we're all sick of hearing about. But the reason I think it would be a good movie is because what people leave out is that the 1968 Baltimore Colt team that the Jets beat is one of the best teams of all time. I mean, that team was crazy good.
Yeah.
And I think they won the NFL championship against the Browns 38-0, which at the time everyone was like, well, the NFL championship's more important than this Super Bowl thing, because that was the last year of the AFL as well. So you have all these elements to it where you have this AFL league, the underdog league, and this was the last year of them being a separate league, and they're going against the old guard, the NFL, who looks down on them. And then you have this scrappy, not even that good Jets team going against literally maybe the best team that the NFL has ever produced. They have a Hall of Fame quarterback, Johnny Unitas, and then Earl Morrall, who comes in. Earl Morrall was great, super underrated. But just and Bubba Smith was their best player, that DN. Just these monsters. And it's how could they ever beat them? And then you have Joe Namath, just the coolest guy who's ever lived. And he says, "Oh, we're going to win the game. I guarantee it." And Joe Namath just was a movie star who played quarterback. The fact that we haven't seen a big screen adaptation of Joe Namath is crazy, because he's just got charisma for days. Literally more charisma than anyone should rightly have.
The only other guy I can think of who comes close is obviously Ocho Cinco. Comes to that superstar, not even T.O., really. Ocho Cinco, his ego was beyond his own head.
That's true. But Joe Namath, I think is probably more likable than those guys. I think...
Oh, yeah.
And he just kind of Broadway Joe, and it's he's chewing dip on the sidelines of an NFL game, and he's out with, he's I think it's un-American for a bachelor not to have a lady every now and then he shoots a pool shot, and he's smoking and drinking. Man,
we got a fur coat on the sideline.
Yeah, dude, don't tell me that wouldn't be a great movie. I mean,
that would be absolutely electric.
It would be. And then to bring in the younger fans that don't know that history, and and then the nice part too is that it was a slow game. It wasn't a particularly epic game, but I think that lends itself more to cinema too, because then you can focus more on the players, and then the little plays mean more, in those spots. But
yeah, it's that first down on 3rd and 7.
Right.
Late in the third quarter is going to mean a lot more than that game-winning touchdown sometimes.
Yeah, exactly. It would mean more than a third down conversion in that Eagles-Patriots Super Bowl we saw a couple years ago, where it was 55-40 or whatever,
I was so glad I hammered the over on that game.
Good call.
And believe you me, I was not cheering for the Eagles.
Yeah. Yep.
I think that was the first Super Bowl I cheered for the Patriots.
Yep. And they couldn't do it.
Yep.
And they couldn't do it. Well, I know I have one more in the bag that I'm excited about, but did you have any others you want to throw out there?
I actually don't. It was kind of the Josh McCown one.
That's a good one. I'm always interested in those type, I always because I'm a nerd and I'm a football nerd, so it's I sit around and I'll ask people whose career would you rather have, Matt Schaub's or Ryan Fitzpatrick, weird shit like that, or do you remember Steve Slayton? Steve Slayton had a good year and a half there, he could have been really good, shit like that. But if you look at I'm not pitching this as a movie, but Arian Foster had an interesting, weird career there, because it was
he did.
2010 through 2012, he was one of the best backs in the league, and then he just disappeared. And it was just we had a unique running style.
He went to. Then he got hurt.
He did get hurt.
Houston, and then he went to Miami, and then got hurt again.
Then it was basically it. And then he was a vegan, and I don't know. Yeah, I don't know if that had anything to do with it. But it was just like, that was a dude who was like undrafted and then all of a sudden just a mega star and then just gone.
Yeah, then gone again.
Sort of like
wild.
Priest Holmes in a way. I mean, Priest Holmes was shorter, but all of a sudden Priest Holmes was like the best, one of the best players in the league, and then he's just gone.
Yeah.
It's weird. But okay, so one more. This isn't an NFL one, but I think just for the amount of characters, like, I think was it the 2008 Florida Gators national championship team with Tim Tebow? Or 2007 or 9? It was right around there.
It was.
But that's fine. Can we get a fact check on that? No one else is here.
I'm on the Google machine right now.
Okay, so I'll just keep talking then.
Yeah.
So the reason I think that would be interesting is because, well, you have Urban Meyer, who, like, we know now. I mean, I think we probably always knew he's not like a stand-up guy, and with that coaching staff, the allegations come out. It's weird stuff happened there, not good stuff.
It was 06 and 08.
06 and 08. So I think
oddly enough, the year they didn't win it was the year that Tim Tebow won the Heisman.
Huh. Weird. Okay.
Yeah.
But you have this charismatic quarterback, Tim Tebow, who's ultimate Christian, super annoying for most people, but plays a unique brand of football that we're not used to. And he's just a winner, and he's charismatic, and he's a leader, and people follow him. That's just how it is. Well, but then, on that team, you also have, you have Percy Harvin, who was this huge pothead, had these crazy migraines, seems like kind of a cool dude. This electric.
That's probably why he failed in the NFL. They were too strict.
That's right.
On his weed intake, and he couldn't get rid of the migraines.
Honestly, that's probably true. But like
Minnesota,
we fucked it up
on that one.
Yep.
Probably could have won a Super Bowl
That's
with
right.
that guy.
Yep, that was our fault. Yeah, and it was just you have this ultra straight edge dude, and then you have this kind of partier, laid back, cool dude who makes a bunch of plays, and then you have a fucking murderer on the team. I mean, Aaron Hernandez. And then there's that other dude that now has allegations of murder. But can you just? Yeah. I can just so clearly picture a halftime speech by Tim Tebow rallying the troops. And then you just see that 1,000-yard stare from Aaron Hernandez, and you just have that cold look in his eye.
I'm gonna kill Team Teo's girlfriend.
Yes, literally.
It's just
and I just love the idea.
What do you think? Oh yeah. No, yep.
That'll work. Yep, let's do it, guys. Yeah, what he said, and just Tim praying, and then I just love the idea of it being in the fourth quarter, and Tim he knows that they need a play, and he looks over at Aaron. Aaron just glares at him, and Tim in his heart knows God, Aaron's not a good dude, but he's our best playmaker right now, and I gotta give him the ball. And he just reluctantly lets him make these plays.
He's going through an emotional battle
exactly.
That literally no one else would go through.
Right. Man, I'm telling you, that would be wild. And you could I don't know. I guess you couldn't really do that because I don't think any of those guys would sign off on it. But just a movie where you
Well, I mean, what's Aaron Hernandez gonna do?
I guess, yeah, whatever. He's dead. So I don't know. I mean, maybe switch the names, but I'm just saying, and not a documentary. We got to do a reenactment of that. But
no, yeah.
Just
because you would have to change the school name.
You would, and all this stuff. But I mean, if it was just loosely based on that, I would just those characters alone, that is super interesting, crazy fucking shit, man. And I would.
Yep.
And I told Old Legs that idea, and he said he wants part of it. He wants to help produce it. So
now that we're going to college, I think a movie about the 2005 Longhorns and the 2005 USC Trojans would be absolutely you just keep bouncing back and forth between two teams all the way up to that national championship game, and I think that would make for an incredible movie.
Yeah, I like that. I like that idea of it. Like you said, the two differing styles and the two it was just such like that was just one of those games that just flipped the world upside down. Like it was literally like the world's never going to be the same again after this game.
No.
And just like leading up to it, just the two totally different, even just cultures, like the schools like in Texas and then in California, you know, and then just the completely different types of teams and the different coaching styles, and just, yeah, like you said, going through, man, that's a good pick.
Yeah.
That's a good one. And then, like, you'd have the cool shit with, like, Reggie Bush, like, you know, doing all that stuff on the side where, like, his agent's buying him a house or whatever the fuck happened, and I don't know. Like, Matt Leinart hobnobbing with...
Let's be honest, that had to be just Pete Carroll by himself.
I think so.
I don't trust that guy at all.
Yeah.
My dad is always like, I kind of like Pete Carroll. I'm like, Dad, if you would have known what happened about 15 years ago, you would not like that guy at all.
Yeah.
And he's like, well, whatever. It's in the past. I'm like, no, man.
No, it's real. It happened. Yeah, it's tough because it's like, I don't know, that whole thing could just be eliminated if we just figured out how to compensate athletes for their time.
If they would have just gave them all the revenue from that fucking game,
that would have been fine. That would have been worth more than anything. Yeah. Oh man.
Yep. And like whoever's on the cover, obviously, is getting the majority of it.
Yeah. And isn't it kind of interesting that like both those teams had all that great star power, but then like in the NFL, none of them really panned out.
Reggie Bush.
And Reggie Bush like had a respectable career and better than like people remember, I think. But he wasn't like this world breaking, next generation type that everyone thought he was. I mean, he's one of the best college players of all time, but it's like he just couldn't translate. Matt Leinart, bust. Vince Young, bust. What's his name? Lendale White, man, just whatever.
Yep.
He got fat pretty quick. Man, that's a pretty good one. I kind of did a 30 for 30 on that, didn't they? I don't know if I ever saw that.
I think they did. I think it was just on USC.
Oh, on USC. Okay.
Yeah. And then obviously they did the 2 for the Miami program.
Yeah, those were good. I like the first. I like the first one better because I like the story of getting a bunch of hometown guys together to win that first championship when they kind of.
That one's pretty cool, but I like the second one more just because I was like, you're Jeremy Shockey, Frank Gore, what?
Yeah, Ed Reed.
I was 6 years old, so I couldn't pay attention to college football, and I was like, I didn't know these guys played for them.
Yeah, wasn't it Ed Reed and? We just blank.
I don't even remember who Miami's quarterback was back then.
Yeah, he was a backup in Carolina, and I think he was he's been a quarterback coach in the league forever, but he was like I don't remember his name, but yeah, he was the dude who never did anything, never got any credit for any of it. Because they held the record until, did Ohio State beat them in 2016 or tied them for the most first round picks or whatever? Because it was like 11 or something. It was like 11 or some crazy shit. I don't know.
Well, I know, especially lately with the Bosa's and Ezekiel Elliott.
Yeah. Because
jeez.
What was it? Was it Frank Gore and Willis McGahee? Were they in the same backfield there?
I think they were.
And I'm pretty sure they're both like top 5 picks.
Yeah.
Damn.
Yeah. McGahee went to
the Bills.
Bills.
Yeah, and then he went to the Ravens.
He was at the Bills, and then he went to Baltimore.
Yeah, because that was like a time when the Bills just drafted a running back every first round for like 5 years. Like, we got to hit on one of these at some point.
Yep.
God dumb. Well, that's a good a spot as any to probably close
we're kind of burnt
out here. Yeah, but all right.
We'll have to come back and do a more structured one, or at least a different one.
No, we can't do it. That's the most structured.
That's all I got.
That's all we got.
I can only write so big.
I'm sorry, guys. I mean, we could do that'd be fun to do a whole how in depth, how minuscule, how unknown, like, can we get with our like NFL knowledge going all the way back?
Oh yeah, imagine if we just sat down together with our laptops and just like started diving into different rabbit holes, different players.
That would be
stuff
funny.
that doesn't matter.
That's what I love most. Stuff that doesn't matter. That's what the show.
Exactly.
That's what the show should be called. Stuff that doesn't matter.
Stuff that really doesn't matter. Maybe I'll do that for my own podcast.
Yeah, there you go.
Sit there and talk to myself.
Yeah. Hey, I'd listen.
Bill Burr does.
Yeah, you know, Bill Burr, and I've already played the outro music, but I don't care. Bill Burr is like my favorite. He's my favorite comedian. He's been
absolutely.
And I listened to his podcast I haven't in a while, but it's literally just him. Like, it's usually him complaining that he can't get the laptop to work right. And then,
it's gotta be a fucking piece of shit. Oh, there it is.
Oh, yeah. There it is.
I got it. It works now.
No problem. But the best part of that podcast when he answers mail, like when he answers those write-ins, they're so good. Because he honestly gives good advice. Like, it's actually really
like, I don't know why you guys fucking write into me. I'm a moron.
Right,
It's like, no, that actually makes sense, dude.
No, it's actually like super practical advice.
Maybe if the whole comedy thing doesn't work out, you could be a therapist.
Yeah. He could be like that one. What was that one show? I don't remember. It was like basically where a dude just yelled at people. Like he was like, oh, you're so, like, oh, how do you think you can do this? Yeah.
Is that like Steve Locos or something?
That's it. You got it.
Yep.
It's like, that's not therapy. You're just being mean to people.
Watch that.
It's like, you
stand there and yell at people.
I don't think you're helping anybody. I think you're just being mean.
Alright, you're just being a drill sergeant for their emotions.
That doesn't work. That's not what therapy is. Anyway, so I'm going to play the outro again. So thank you guys so much for listening. Check me out on Twitter at LukeLarson89. You can find this podcast at L Squared Podcast on Twitter, at L2 Podcast on Facebook, L Squared Podcast on, what's it called? Instagram, that's right. You can also find us on SoundCloud and YouTube. And
this podcast is the only reason I have SoundCloud.
That's right.
Just throwing it out there.
And, you know, we appreciate that. SoundCloud appreciates that. And, you know, you're the only reason we have Twitter. You know, Austin said it before.
Exactly. I mean,
he's a great follow. Where can people find you?
My Twitter is at 13apples, and side notes, my last name is Subgert, but it's spelled Appel. So at 13apples on Twitter and Instagram. Hit me up on there. It's mostly me complaining about the Twins right now, but I do tweet out some stuff. We can have cool conversations on there. So,
did your handle used to be like applesauce?
I think it was. Yeah. When I very first got it, and I'm thinking I thought about going back to it.
Yeah, because that's one where like initially you're like that sounds like when you first get a Twitter thing, like you're like, oh, that's a cool handle, and then like I could see you being like, I don't really know, but I feel like it's got like a little bit of a retro vibe to it, but you know,
I think I might go back to it.
I think you should hit them up.
Let's do laptop right now.
Yeah, wait, hold on. Let's do a Twitter poll. We'll make the new followers vote if you should be applesauce. At least you didn't go like apple juice. That's not cool. That's not
apple juice sounds
cool.
dumb.
That's dumb.
Apple. Yeah.
I'm glad we agree on that.
Yep.
All right. Well, hey, thanks for coming on, man. Thanks you guys so much for listening. And
thank you again for having me.
For sure. You know,
we'll have to get together when I'm back in Sioux Falls. So.
Yeah, for sure. And then we do also have a Patreon, so we're going to be adding a new tier. So at this level, what we're going to do is actually, if Austin, if you want, you can be involved with this. But this new tier, I think it's $352 a month. And what we do is it would be you, me, and Old Legs, and we would just somehow figure out how to do a 3-man weave of playing scrimmage. But the thing is while you're playing football, you also have to quote in verbatim and also quote the year of poets and philosophers. as we go, and we have a fact checker there to make sure it's all right. Now, again, we haven't really worked out the details, but that's where your money comes in, because once you start paying it, then we can work those out. But at this time, it's just kind of in the process. But definitely can get those in and
$352 a month
every month.
We'll do a video. Rain or shine, snow, sleet.
Yep. Once you get that in, we're gonna do it.
Us quoting poetry.
Yep, and scrimmaging. So send those in.
Can't.